Hey guys, it's Key here for Worship Wednesday, y'all. On Wednesday, looking like a ghost, but that's okay. I wanted to come and start this new series, or part 1, part 2, part 3 type of thing. And because I have so much to talk about, and I wanted to stay on one subject at a time. Because you know I bounce back and forth, and that's just who I am. And speaking of that, that's what I wanted to talk about was DNA. Your DNA. And not just the deoxyribonucleic acid of it all. I wanted to talk about what makes up that DNA emotionally, behaviorally. That's probably not a word, but I'm just going to use it. What I want you to do is I want you to get a pen and paper, and I want you to take this down. I want you to ask yourself, how do I react when I become angry? How do I react when I'm sad, happy? I want you to write down the answer to how do I deal with conflict? How are my eating habits? What family diseases run in my family? Is there anybody who's ever studied witchcraft? And put a note down to yourself to do a family background. Maybe talk to someone who's the oldest in your family, who will be like the family historian. Have a dinner, have a get together, and see how, just watch the people in your family and see how they react to these certain situations. Maybe you can, feel free to ask them and they'll answer. The reason why is because we're working on, at our church, we're going through a series, and we're talking about, the last part, we're talking about compassion and compassion of Christ. And what was so awesome, what the pastor had pointed out, was how once Jesus showed compassion, how awesome the blessing, the manifestation, the things that he wanted to happen came about. For instance, feeding them all the fish and the bread. It was because he had compassion at the people in need. And he prayed, and God made sure that everyone had more than enough food. So I want you to do the DNA and do those questions, because I was sitting here, and as he's preaching and stuff, and I'm saying, I receive it, and I'm saying, why is it so hard? Because we were really talking to Christians. Why is it so hard for us as Christians to show compassion? Compassion to other Christians, but also compassion to the world. Because if you see a video I did way back, I was talking about Michael Jackson, we were calling him a pedophile and all this other stuff, and I said, because somebody at my old church, was like, da-da-da-da-da, how could y'all feel this way? And it hurt me because, where is the compassion of Christ within the Christian community? And that's why I did that video back then. So now when it's, being reiterated, I'm like, wow, where is the compassion? And a lot of the times we forget as Christians who we are now and where we came from. And I want you to really find out where you came from, because that sometimes is what is the stumbling block in allowing you to show compassion to others. And that is also going to be the stumbling block that stops you from receiving what God has for you. So many times we put up these walls, and we stay in these traditions that have been taught to us. And a lot of the times those are things that we have to pray against and cancel out of our life in order for God to do what he wants to do. No matter how shameful it is, no matter what it is, God loves everyone, from the homosexual to the murderer to the pedophile to the prostitute on the corner, the drug dealer on the corner, to you who's lying on your taxes, to the little kid who stole a piece of 5-cent candy. He loves everyone. But a lot of the times what we as Christians do, we want to say, well, because God saved me, we don't want to be transparent enough to maybe someone out in the world who's struggling. Or we want to pass judgment on to another Christian because they're not functioning the way that you would. The thing that sticks out in my head so much is what I told my husband. We sit here and so many times, because the way that I would handle things, we think that that's the way that someone else would handle it. But it's not. And that becomes the part where we clash heads, when this should be the part where maybe we come together and say, okay, this is your idea and this is my idea. Why don't we collaborate them together and maybe work something out? Because maybe the way that you are a director and say, hey, you know, this is what we need to do, da-da-da-da, and then I come in because I'm the type of person who needs a plan, and once you give me a plan, I can follow it through, then we can work together. But what a lot of times we do is, well, she thinks she owns everything, she could do all this, that, and that, and then the other person, well, you know, I don't understand why somebody got to explain to her everything that got to be done, take out too much time. When those two could so easily come together and work things out. So, I want you to find out who you are. This is the first part of the series, because once we find out who we are, once we find out some of the things that might have happened in our past, and we realize those things trickle into our DNA without us even thinking about it, because we only think about maybe as far as grandma. But, you know, there's further back where I'm learning stories about my great-great-grandmother and, you know, all these different people. And you're saying, wow. Okay, they dealt with that. I mean, I just found out not too long ago that somebody in my family shot their dad because he was abusive. My mom's father's side of the family, whole line of abusive men. So, and you know, and I know a lot of the women in my family have dealt with abuse and stuck with it. Is that maybe in their DNA to say, you know, whatever, this is something I want to stick with. But this is why I said these are things that you need to find out, because these are things that you need to pray against. Because I myself said I don't want a marriage where I'm fighting with my husband every day. I want to marry my best friend. I don't want any type of spousal abuse, because I will try to kill someone and I don't want to go to jail. But I wanted to make sure that I broke that curse on my family before it even existed. And so this is why I'm saying we need to research who we are and where you come from in order to better yourself, in order to open the door so that you have compassion for someone who maybe hasn't even got to where you are right now. Some people have been through so much and still come out on top, where there's some people who are still struggling, and those people who came out on top should have the compassion and understanding, because they know who they are and what DNA has been instilled in them, that they can go over and reach that person who is still going through it. So, I hope you enjoy what we're going to talk about. I want you to maybe leave some comments, share some things that you might be going through. But make sure you write those things down and really try and work it out. I'm telling you, once you do and you realize this is maybe why I react that way, this is why maybe I react this way, and maybe there's some things that need to be broken, the way that you react to certain things, so that God can come in and do a mighty work and turn you totally around to be a blessing to someone else who might still be going through it. And you can lift them up and say, look, it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to get through this thing. We're going to pray through this thing. We're going to break that stronghold. So I hope you enjoyed Worship Wednesday. I will see you next Wednesday. I love you guys. Be blessed for the remainder of the week. Bye-bye.